Hello and welcome back to Eternal Summer. Wearing a pioneer uniform? Well, my logic didn't let me down this time. Then again, a pioneer uniform in the 21st century? And then again, a girl? Here? I froze, unable to take a step, and I felt very much like running away. Running as far away as I could from this place, far from this bus, from the gates and statues, and far from this bloody bird with its siesta. Just running, free like the wind, faster and faster, waving to the planets passing by, winking at the galaxies, running, becoming a pulsar ray, turning into a vestigial radiation, running into the face of the unknown. Run, no matter where, as long as it's far away from this place. Meanwhile, the girl came closer and smiled, and I couldn't help but notice her beauty, even though I was trembling with fear. Human instincts work independent of consciousness, and while only 5% of the brain is responsible for cognitive processes, the remaining 95% is always busy sustaining life, and in particular ensuring stable functioning of the hormonal system. I desperately wanted to get less complicated, to stop thinking in formal quotes from an encyclopedia, though my thoughts appeared one by one being stupid, out of place, as if taken from an internal monologue of the hero of some junky software crime fiction book. A pretty Slavic face, and long braids that looked like 2 armfuls of fresh hay. Blue eyes you could drown in. "Hi, you must have just arrived." Let's try and reply. Try not to say anything stupid. Yeah. "Oh, all right then, welcome." She smiled broadly. Strange. It looked as if I'd just had a normal girl in front of me. I shouldn't have returned here. The woods and fields seemed better. But what shall I do next? Try and speak to her if she was human, or run away, or what? The blood was pumping unbearably in my head, tearing it apart from the inside. A little bit more, and the poor pioneer girl will be splattered with gruesome contents of my skull. "What's so funny about that?" The girl looked me over. She sent shivers down my spine, and knees started to tremble. "Nothing." "Great then." "Great? What's so great about that?" Suddenly, a thought crossed my mind. To hell with it all. Forget the bus behind me, the fact that it was winter yesterday and summer today. I wanted to rip off my itchy sweater and just accept that all this is happening. Everything is as it should be. All this is for the best. Would you happen to know... You should go to our camp leader. She'll tell you everything. Look. You go straight ahead to the square, then turn left. You'll see several small cabins. She pointed at the gates, as if I knew what was behind them. Dmitrieva is Dmitrieva? I'm going to assume it's pronounced something like that. Is a patronymic, a derivative of a person's father's name, in this case Dmitri. Put in Russia. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Well, you can ask someone where Olga Dmitrieva's cabin is. Got it? Of course I didn't. Well, I've got to go now. The girl waved her hand at me and disappeared through the gates, and it seemed as if to her I was something ordinary. All of this show with the bus and the travels while awake or asleep were troubling only to me, while everything here is just the way it's supposed to be. Camp leader, pioneer uniform. What are they? A historical reenactment group? I hope I won't find Lenin standing atop an armoured car in this square. But even that wouldn't surprise me right now. After standing alone for a while, I headed into the camp. A mere 50 metres ahead, a small one-storey house popped up on the left side, and the sign on the door said, "Clubs." I was about to come closer when the door suddenly opened and a short girl wearing her own pioneer uniform came out. Her pretty face gave me the impression of one suffering for the fate of the whole mankind, with truly universal sorrow. And as soon as she saw me, the new girl froze as if frightened. I froze too, considering what was best to do. To approach first, or wait until she showed some initiative. Or maybe just run away after all. Although the last option was constantly being suggested only by my self-preservation instinct. At least that's what I like to believe. Not the worst human instinct, but far from the most logical. If this instinct played poker against deductive abilities, the outcome would be predetermined. All those deductive abilities, or, well, at least their semblance, were hinting to me that there was no need to be afraid of this girl. And suddenly somebody jumped out of the nearby bushes. A girl wearing a bright red t-shirt with USSR written on it. Such a perfect reproduction of the age. She looked quite short from a distance and was probably younger than both pioneer girls. The one at the gate and this girl at the door of the clubs. Alas, I decided to come closer, but the USSR, as I'd called her in my mind, jumped towards the first girl and started telling her something, while wildly waving her arms. The other girl, in turn, seemed confused and lowered her gaze, remaining silent. I would have probably continued to observe their amusing dialogue, but the USSR suddenly pulled something from her pocket and started waving it in front of the first girl's face. The something turned out to be a grasshopper. The first girl squealed. She must not be too keen on insects, as she instantly rushed off towards the place where Lenin presumably had made his speech about the workers' and peasants' revolution. That is to say, towards the square. The USSR glanced at me, grinned playfully, and dashed after her. Not a bad start to the day. I have absolutely no clue where I am, but well, besides that, there are some kids here role-playing as pioneers. And as far as I can tell, this place is thousands of kilometers away from my home. It might even be a different reality. And that this was indeed a reality. I mean, everything around me seemed so real, if a little embellished. I was starting to think that my previous life could have been just a dream. What am I supposed to do now? I was picking at the cracked paving stones with my shoe and staring aimlessly at the club's building. Just a few more seconds before I have to come up with some decision. And that's when I recalled myself rolling on the grass, weeping. I cringed in disgust. Perhaps it's another instinct. When all energy for whimpering and self-pitying is used up, the body either goes into hibernation or mobilizes its reserves. Mine seemed to have chosen the second option, because out of the blue I found the determination to figure out what was going on. And in order to do that, I had to act like a man, like a human, to maintain the dignity and representative of my own world. I followed the path to the left, and on the right side of which stood small cabins, apparently the homes of the local pioneers. Actually, well, they looked kind of cozy from the outside. Even though I was born in the Soviet Union, I'd never been a part of its children's organisations, neither the pioneers nor even the Young October Children. I imagined the daily life of a typical pioneer camp a bit differently. Huge barracks, long rows of metal bunks, wake-up call at 6 o'clock, played by a siren, 1 minute to make your bed, then join in the formation at the drill square. Or wait, could I have been confusing that with something else? Suddenly something struck me on the back, and I staggered but remained on my feet, turning round and preparing to fight heroically for my life. But all I found was another girl standing before me. My mouth hung open in surprise. Pick your jaw up off the ground. I closed my mouth. Same pioneer uniform, but the way she was wearing it looked, well, let's just say provocative. Like all the girls I had met here before, this one was rather cute, but her overly arrogant expression killed any desire to get to know her better. New here, are you? Fine, see ya. She threw a threatening glance at me and walked past. I waited for the pioneer girl to turn the corner. Who knows what else she might have been up to? The most interesting thing was that even this hostile girl seemed completely normal to me. She didn't give off the feeling of some deadly danger. Well, except maybe the danger of getting punched in the nose. At last, I managed to make it to the square. There was no Lenin on an armoured car, although one could easily expect something like that after all this had happened. Instead, however, a small monument towards a certain comrade towered in the middle of the square, and the names on the pedestal read, Genda. Must be some big figure in the party. There were some small benches at the sides. It's quite pleasant here. Where did that girl tell me to go? To the left or to the right? Left, right, left, right, left, right. Oh, why am I going there anyway? Alright, I've decided to pretend to be normal. So, to the right. Through a small grove. I came out at a pier. Oh, I must have taken a wrong turn. Hey, wrong way! I turned towards the voice. And that first girl stood before me. Now, what did I tell you? Take a left at the square, wasn't it? She changed from a pioneer uniform into a bikini. Oh, I still haven't introduced myself. My name's Slavia. Slavia? I'm going to assume Slavia. Well, actually my full name's Slavliania, but everybody calls me Slavia. So can you too. Yeah. I still feel a bit confused, so I really couldn't come up with any more meaningful answers. And what's your name? I felt like she could see right through me. Semyon. Nice to meet you, Semyon. Alright, I'm almost done here. Could you wait a minute? I'm gonna change and we'll go to Olga Dmitriev. Yeah, this is the problem with me. I can't pronounce most Russian names unless that's the thing. Unless you hear a name pronounced on the news like 50 times, I can't pronounce it properly if it's Russian. Dmitrievna. Together, agreed? Agreed. After this exchange, she ran off, and I sat on the pier, letting my feet hang in the water. I was wearing heavy winter boots, but in such weather there was nothing wrong with getting my feet wet. Furthermore, it let me cool myself a little. Looking at the river, I was brainstorming and processing everything that had happened. If this is some kind of conspiracy, it's a weird one, even too friendly at times. No, it really looks more like a random event. Some entirely incomprehensible random event. Shall we go? Slavia was standing beside me, dressed in the pioneer uniform again. Yeah, let's go. I've been here for a very short time, but of all the people I met, she looks the least suspicious. However, that fact is already suspicious itself. We walked into the square. The USSR girl and the girl who hit me on the back were chasing each other. Is that some kind of game they're playing? Ulyana, enough running! I'll tell everything to Olga! Oh. Aye aye, Captain. I'm not entirely sure why she's turned Scottish, but okay. It's probably... Well, she was kind of Scottish before, but now my brain's immediately gone to... I cannot do it, Captain! I don't have the power! Sorry. I decided not to question Slavia for a while about what was going on with the local residents. Better to meet with this mysterious Olga Dmitrievna first. Sounds like she's the boss here. We walked past rows of identical cabins, some of which looked like fat beer barrels, and others looked more like household sheds. Finally, Slavia stopped in front of a smallish one-story cabin. It looked more like an artist's painting. The faded paint, chipping here and there with age, was sparkling in the sun. The window shutters were slightly ajar and were swaying almost unnoticeably in the wind, and huge lilac bushes were growing at the sides. It seemed as if this ramshackle hut was drowning in a storm of purple silk, and the lilacs, like some elemental force, were inexorably destroying the troop leader's house. So what are you standing around for? Let's go! Slavia snapped me out of my daydreaming. And stop Okay, this person's got to have an over-the-top Russian accent. I'm sorry, but I can't not do it. And stop teasing Lana already. Raina? Sounds like there's someone inside. Indeed, a moment later, the doors swung open, and Ulyana ran out and dashed past with the same mischievous grin. The pigtailed girl came out next. Oh, okay, so it was a... Right, okay, it was the girl in the red t-shirt who I gave the Scottish voice to earlier. I was actually assuming that was the elder one with the... You know, who's hiked her top up. I was going to make her the Scottish one. I'll see how it goes in the future. Don't let it bother you, Lena. So her name's Lena. Okay, gotta be thankful it's not Raina, at least. But I don't! Instead of finishing her sentence, she blushed and quickly headed towards the square. For some reason, I felt like turning and following her with my eyes, but Slavia said, "Come." We entered the cabin, and inside, it looked something similar to what I'd imagined. 2 beds, a table, a couple of chairs, a simple carpet on the floor, and a wardrobe. Nothing special, but at the same time it felt home-like and cosy, though this room was almost in the same state of disorder as my own flat. The girl standing near the window appeared to be 25 years old. Nature had gifted her with a pretty face and a good body. Well, at least one thing can keep you happy in this pandemonium. The locals are beautiful. Ah, you're finally here. Excellent. My name is Olga Dmitrieva. I'm the camp leader. Nice to meet you. I'm Semyon. I just had to talk as if I wasn't surprised that anything was going on. she came closer. "We've been expecting you since early morning." "You've been expecting me?" "Yes, of course." "And when does the next bus come? And why do you need it?" "Yeah, right, why would I need it?" "Guess you shouldn't be asking direct questions. The people here may react to them, well, quite unlike how I'd prefer. And I doubt I'd get any answers anyway." No reason, just curious." "By the way, where exactly are we?" "Our mailing address, I mean. I wanted to send a letter to my parents to tell them I got here fine. For some reason, I had the desperate idea that if I played along, I might find something out." "Oh, but your parents just called half an hour ago. Sent their regards to you." "Well, that's a surprise." "So, can I call them? I've got to tell them something before I left." "No." She gave me a sweet and spontaneous smile. "Why not?" "We don't have a phone here." "Then how can my parents make a call to here?" "Oh, I've just come back from the district's central town. I talked with them there." "Oh, so that's how it is. And can I somehow get to the town?" "No." She kept the same smile. "Why not?" "Because the next bus only comes in a week." I decided not to inquire how the troop leader managed to get there and back. I wouldn't get any answer anyway. All this time, Slavia was standing next to me and seemed to find nothing odd in our conversation. "Oh, we need to find a uniform for you." I've got absolutely no desire to put on pioneer shorts or wear the ridiculous red neckerchief. But wearing winter clothes in summer isn't a great idea either. Right, thank you. I wonder if I'm the only one here who finds it strange that someone's wearing a coat and winter boots in such heat. Righty-ho, I'll be off, and then you can get yourself acquainted with camp. Oh, and don't forget to come to dinner in the evening. Having said that, she walked out of the cabin. Well, no, walked is the wrong word. She rushed out. I ended up alone with Slavia. "I must go. Got things to do. Take a walk. Look around the camp a bit. See you in the evening." If there's no thread or catch to this in reality, then embodied by Slavia becomes, well, more and more appealing. For the first time today, I realised that it really was awfully hot here, though obviously my winter clothes would have blamed for that. I took off my coat and dropped it onto the bed, and my pullover followed it. Now I was wearing only the shirt. That's much better. All I could do for now was follow their advice, go look around the camp. And I'll try to find something out in the meantime. Passing the local residential district, I saw a pioneer guy coming my way. And it really was a pioneer guy, not a pioneer girl. Apparently there were men even in this kingdom of Amazons. "Hello, you're new here. You must be Semyon, right?" "And how do you—" "Everyone knows already. I'm Electronic, by the way. The real one. You can call me that." Electronic was a robot character appearing in popular Soviet film and book series. He looked like an exact copy of School Kid called Sergei Chizkov. Electronic? The real one? Okay, things are going from crazy to completely insane. Alright. Well, Liana also calls me Cheesy. Cheesy? On toast with mushrooms? Because my last name is Chizkov. I see. Let me show you around. I accepted his offer, as it would have taken, well, much longer to get to know this place alone. Fine, let's go. We ended up at the square again. It's as if this place was all there is to this camp. Lena was sitting on one of the benches reading some book. Electronic confidently approached her. "Hello, Lena. Meet the new guy, Semyon." I stared briskly. "Hello. Well, you could say we've already met in a way." Yes." She looked away from the book for a moment, glancing at me, blushed, and went back to reading, as if not noticing that we were still here. "All right, let's go on." I was at first surprised that, well, meeting this girl was reduced to a couple of words, but then I thought it was probably better that way. Electronic's vigorous activity didn't fit well with Lena's shyness. Let's go. Next, we came to a building which I instantly identified as a canteen. "And this here? I know, this is where you consume organic food." "Yeah, something like that." On the canteen's porch stood the unfriendly girl who hit me on the back earlier. At the sight of her, my joking mood vanished in the blink of an eye. Really, now is not the best time to be pulling this guy's leg, even though he's kind of hilarious. First, I need to figure out what's what here. Or at least where I am. Her over there? That's Alasa Devskinietska. Be careful around her, he spoke in a whisper. Don't ever risk calling her Devchek. She doesn't appreciate that. Okay, apparently Deva means two in Russian, so the whole nickname sounds exactly like Tucha in Russian, a reference to the late Tucha.ru infamous image board. Okay. What did you say? What did you call me? She must have heard him. In the blink of an eye, Alyssa jumped down from the porch and dashed towards us. All right, you'll manage from here onwards. Electronic took to his heels. Let's stand our ground. Alyssa, running past, stopped for a moment and growled. I'll deal with you later. Deal with me? What did I do wrong? I added a forced, guilty smile to my words. What am I guilty of? She made no reply and carried on chasing Electronic. Looks like I'll have to kill time alone, waiting for dinner. I decided to go east. Or, well, at least the direction where east would be in my world. Soon after, I found myself near a football pitch, and a game was in full swing. I guess watching it for a bit wouldn't do any harm. In my childhood and teen years, I wasn't a bad player myself, and, well, I even thought of going professional, but a few injuries in a row killed my desire to risk my health for the sake of an uncertain chance in the game. Kids of different ages were running around the pitch, and I could see a boy of about 10 and a girl of about 14. Girl? Hey, that's Ulyana. Alright, so she plays football. Not so surprising. She seems like a restless one after all. I was standing quite far from the pitch, but she still noticed me. Hey you! Ulyana shouted. Wanna play? I didn't know how to answer. On one hand, running around for 10 minutes is no big deal. On the other hand, one wrong move in my situation could be my final one. But in any case, my attire wasn't suitable for this weather. If I played in winter boots and warm jeans, I'd sweat like a pig. And playing barefoot without jeans would be just unethical. Maybe another time, alright? I shouted in response, turning around and walking back. I was followed by Ulyana's screams about my pants or about me being a pansy or something like that. Evening was falling, making me feel tired and empty after a day wasted with no real purpose. I came back to the square, sat down on a bench and gave an exhausted sigh. Oh, I better sit here and wait for dinner. After all, it's easier to search for answers when you're not hungry. They do give food to the people here, right? You know, it's curious how the simplest human needs can break the will to ponder on things or to strive for something. For example, I feel hungry now. So I care so much less about where I am or what's happening to me. Could great people also be affected like this? In that case, how did Spartacus start the slave uprising in ancient times? I can only conclude that I'm not a great person. Still, it doesn't really matter which mechanism I serve as a gear in. Society, the Matrix, weird pioneer camp. My thoughts were interrupted by the sound of bells chiming from a loudspeaker on a light pole. Ah, must be the dinner call. I headed towards the canteen. It was a good thing that I at least knew where it was. Olga Dmitrievna was there, standing on the porch. I stopped and looked closely at her, as if I was expecting something. She looked back at me for a while, but at last came closer. Simon, what are you waiting for? Come in already. Guess nothing bad can happen if I go with her. And my stomach backed me up there. The two of us went inside. The canteen looked like a canteen. I'd had a chance to visit a factory canteen at some point in my life. This one was exactly the same, just... This one was exactly the same, just maybe a bit cleaner, a bit more modern. Metal chairs and tables, glazed tiles on the walls and the floor, unsophisticated tableware with the occasional crack. I guess that's what a canteen in a pioneer camp's supposed to look like. Simon, wait a moment. We'll find you a place to sit. She looked around the place. No. You there! Hold it right there! Olga Dmitrievna shouted at Elisa, who was passing by. What? What's up with your clothes? Anything wrong with them? Indeed, her attire did look somewhat provocative. Get your uniform neat right now. All right. Elisa got her shirt right and walked past, shooting an unpleasant glare at me. So, where can we find you a place to sit? There weren't a lot of free seats. Oh, go over there, next to Uliana. Maybe I... Yeah, it's fine, the food's already on the table too. I had no choice but to accept. In common Russian language, kotletya, a cutlet, is a minced meat, fried or baked in the shape of a ball or a cylinder. Close to the American patties, compote is a drink made by boiling fresh or dried fruit in a large amount of water, which is compote in French, fair enough. Of course, there was the probability that the cutlets were poisoned with curare, and mashed potatoes generally seasoned with arsenic, and the glass filled with excellent antifreeze instead of compote. But it looked so tasty that I had no chance to resist. Hey! What do you want? I replied rather rudely to Uliana, who was sitting next to me. Why didn't you play football with us? Because of my clothes, I said, pointing at the source of the problem. Oh. Alright then, eat. However, there wasn't much left to eat. My cutlet was missing from the plate, and only she could have done it. Well, no, precisely no one but Uliana could have done it. Hey, give me back my cutlet. In a big family, you snooze, you lose. It can cost you a cutlet if you're careless. Give it back, I'm telling you. Oh, forget it. See, I don't have it. And indeed, Uliana's plate was empty. It seemed this little girl eats as fast as she steals someone's cutlets. Take it easy, we'll work something out now. She grabbed my plate and ran off. There was no point following her. If they wanted to poison me, they could have done it in a much easier way. And about a minute later, Uliana returned and handed me a plate with a steaming hot cutlet on it. Here's one for the starving. Thanks. It was all I could say. I was so hungry that my suspicions were gone in a flash. I picked up the cutlet with my fork and... What the? Some bug? No, not a bug. An insect! It's got legs and it's wriggling. The plate fell to the floor and broke into pieces, and the chair hit me hard on the leg while falling. I've disliked insects since I was a child, but when those creepy crawlies appear on my plate, that's way too much. You little... Uliana seemed ready for such a twist, and I was already on the door, laughing as if she'd just heard a fresh stand-up comedy joke. I dashed after her. We ran out of the canteen, and we were just a few dozen meters apart, and I felt I would catch this little girl easily. We ran through the square, past the clubhouse. I ran onto the forest path, and I started to gasp for breath. Oh, I really should have quit smoking, I guess. Uliana passed out of sight on the next turn. It can't be true that she managed to get away from me. It simply can't. I stopped and tried to catch my breath again. Night was falling, and it looked like I'd lost. Oh, it's a bad idea to stay in the woods at night. I'd better get back to the camp. But I had no clue which way to go. I gotta choose at random. I wandered for quite some time in the forest, and even thought of crying for help, but finally I saw the camp's fence beyond the trees, and everything fell back into place. The bus is gone, I murmured quietly. But on the other hand, there was nothing strange about that. The bus couldn't stay there forever. On the other hand, it meant there was someone driving, because buses do not drive themselves. Or do they? The world seemed too normal, but every event here had at least two explanations for it. An ordinary, real, everyday explanation, and a surreal one. Certainly the driver could have just been off for a snack. I left too soon, and that's why. But in any case, this isn't the place for me. Whether that bus drives itself or not was probably an important question, but it was much more important to know how I'd gotten here at all. And where here was. The fields, the woods stretching to the horizon, I had no answers. There was nothing familiar about them. A strange, odd, and alien world. Well, that to me seems like a pretty reasonable point to end this part, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.